Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Strange Dead Fellows. Tonight I'm with Lindsay, and unfortunately, Keith is out with some family matters, which by the time this episode airs, everyone will know. So we want to send our love and all our positive energy and vibes to Keith and his best friend Austin and his family. So we look forward to having him back on the show. And yeah, so this episode is one of three that we will be doing, where each one of us will be discussing our journey in the paranormal and the spiritual and the unexplained all together.
Yes.
So first up tonight is Lindsay. And it's very interesting because before we even started filming,
Oh, geez.
we started getting some, how should we say, uh, started getting some,
A friend of mine popped in.
yeah,
And
said, "Hey, it's me from last week." Yeah.
Mhm.
So we have that going on, and eventually we'll explain that one. But Lindsay, what is it that started your paranormal and spiritual journey in this world?
Well, for me, it all started when I was 6 and my grandpa passed from cancer, lung cancer. It was the week of his funeral. I was very close to him, and after all the things I've been learning like the last several years, I know he's one of my soulmates. I'll explain that real quick. I know society's general like definition of soulmates is like that one person for everybody.
Yeah.
I believe that we all have more than one, and that it's not necessarily like a love relationship, like a partner. It can be family, friends. It can be an animal, like and my grandpa was one of my soulmates, and I was walking through my house, and out of the corner of my eye, there was a chair in our house in our living room that was grandpa's chair that he would always sit in when he came to visit. And when I was walking past, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something. So I turned to look, and he was sitting there in his chair, and he just looked at me and smiled, and he didn't say anything. But I instantly knew that he would always be with me and that everything would be okay. Yeah. And it was the most peaceful thing, which is a major gift. That my earlier experiences were all positive, because I really don't I don't think I feel much fear when it comes to souls and stuff. And now that we're kind of getting a little bit more into the paranormal investigation side of things, to me, it's just souls without bodies and stuff. So
yeah,
I feel very lucky about that. And he looked just like we look like to each other. He wasn't like a shadow figure or an outline or a misty whatever. Yeah, and since I was 6 years old and I was raised Lutheran, I used the terms that I knew then. And so for my understanding then, it was that grandpa's my guardian angel. Yeah. And so, yeah. He's been looking out for me and my homie on the other side ever since. So, yes.
And I think, when you say that you saw him and he didn't say nothing to you, he just turned and kind of gave you that smile. I think I think even just that is much more. I want to use the word enlightening, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's that silent connection where words aren't necessary. It's like a I'm all right, you're all right, we're all right kind of thing. Like,
Right. And
you know what I
it's
mean?
kind of like with the things that I experience, like I don't really audibly hear voices all that much. I hear it more in my head. So for me, I say it's like telepathic or whatever. Um, and so it was just us connecting with our souls, I guess, and just that
Yeah,
was the general point that he was getting across.
yeah.
And it was just a feeling of love and warmth and no reason to be
Being afraid.
upset or afraid of
Yeah,
anything. Yeah.
yeah. I can see that. Because that kind of makes me happy just hearing that.
Hmm.
Um,
We're both going to try not to cry tonight.
we're gonna try.
Whew.
Quick shout out though. Let's shout out to Nessa
Mm-hmm.
for the cool swag that we have. What? We will
Her
put a link.
design.
We will put a link to her awesome art website at the down below in the description.
Yes. And I
So
will also be doing a post about her stuff as well.
exactly, awesome art.
Yes. Yeah.
So then after your grandpa, um, did you feel more of a connection to the other side, so to speak, or was there little things along the way that you started getting more and more of a clear picture of your spirituality with the
Mm-hmm.
paranormal?
That I'm not even really sure. Like I kind of consider that moment like my first, like in the spiritual community people talk about like you have an awakening,
Yeah,
and it seems like it comes across as this one event or whatever. And I think we have different levels of awakening and stuff, from what I've experienced just myself. um so I guess I consider like the experience with my grandpa when I was 6 to be like the first awakening, I guess. Um uh and I guess it like I can't really remember what my views were on the afterlife like before the age of 6. But
yeah,
like when that happened, like ever since then I just knew there was more.
yeah,
I didn't know what, but I just knew there was more, and
yeah,
that we're way more connected than we would think, and that we're taught to understand and stuff, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So then it was just like further confirmation over the years, like on and off, like as family members passed away, I would like the most common thing was dream visitations for me. And it was just with family. So I just thought that's what it would be like. I would just have experiences with family members and stuff because I didn't know anything about any of this. And growing up in a small town and growing up Lutheran and just the beliefs of the church, and uh, just nobody around here talked about that stuff much. Every once in a while, I would attempt to try to test people, kind of, and be like, "Is there anyone I can talk to about this?" And not really. So, yeah. But let's see. My grandma, when she passed, I had one dream visitation from her that I remembered after grocery shopping for Thanksgiving with my mom. We were heading home and I remembered the dream that I had with her. And it was actually a dream. I was having a nightmare, and it was one of the dreams where you consciously are aware that you're having a nightmare, and you're like,
Oh yeah,
this
one of
is
those.
stupid.
Yeah,
Think of something else, because
yeah.
yeah. And so it wasn't long after she had passed, and I was just like, well, try reaching out to grandma and stuff. And then all of a sudden, we were in a white space, and I know that sounds cliche, but there wasn't any sense of like walls or a ceiling or a floor or anything. There was a table, and we never spoke. She went to the table, and there was like a legal pad of paper, and I remember she was writing in red ink, and red was her favorite color. um, that's the only thing I can contribute the red ink to. But she was writing a recipe for scalloped something. And as she was
Mhm.
writing, the ink would disappear. And I just thought it was bizarre. Like, I'm a weird, like, picky food eater, which you are well aware of. And so, like, when I was telling my mom about it, I just said scalloped potatoes because that's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
And her jaw just kind of hit the floor, and I was just like, what? And she's like, there's a recipe for scallop corn that your grandma had, and I wanted to make it for Thanksgiving this year, and I never wrote the recipe down.
Oh man.
And I was like, what?
Wow.
And I think the whole point, like, because it wasn't till years later when I was thinking about it, I'm like, I think the whole point of her doing that was to try to help my mom see that this is a thing, that they go on and can still talk and everything.
Yeah.
Because
But also, you're not getting my recipe.
well, actually, a few years later, my mom remembered it more, so she
Uh,
actually got it. So that's cool. But yeah, it was funny because then she would all of a sudden she was just like, "Well, why the hell is she telling you? I'm the one who needs to know."
oh my goodness.
So that was funny. Uh, my Aunt Susan, she was an interesting one because she had type 1 diabetes. So there was at least 10 years that I'm aware of, because there was a lot when I was younger that I'm not so sure and I don't remember, but there was at least 10 years where it was dicey, and it was like there were times when she could have passed away. And she was well aware of my experiences that I had had. And so she was the only person that I actually had a conversation with before their passing about trying to communicate after they die. Like, she and I sat down, and she's like, well, I'm obviously going to try to reach out to you, and we were just talking about it. And because we don't know what it takes for them to communicate,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't know what it takes for them to be able to do what they do and communicate in different ways.
Yeah.
But so that was interesting. That was the first time that's ever been a thing, of talking to someone before they pass and being like, we're going to try to talk to each other after I'm gone, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I did get 2 different messages from her. One was a dream visitation, and the other I audibly heard. And that was the first time I ever audibly heard something. And I remember it like I was texting a friend at the time, and I was in my room. And a big part of how I think I was able to hear it is the ceiling fan was on. So there was sort of that whirring of the fan.
Yeah.
And when it comes to these kinds of things, like, frequency and vibrations are a huge part of it. And I just think that, like, I felt that night, like, it's something with the fan on helped me hear her. So I think someone was telling me that, because I don't know why I would think that.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but they were both messages for my uncle and stuff. And my uncle was aware of the experiences that I had had before then. And so when she passed, he was like, if she ever tells you anything, you know, let me know and everything. So I was, and it also, like, obviously the biggest part is being able to give whoever the message is for whatever kind of peace or answers that they're trying to, with whatever they're dealing with, whatever's on their mind. Like one of them had to do with him selling the house. Like he was trying to debate about it and everything. And that was the audible one that I heard. And she's like, he needs to get out of that house. And I didn't know he was even thinking about selling it and stuff. And the main thing is that it makes sense to them, but then it also helps me trust in myself because it makes sense to them with things that I didn't know about. Because I have a big problem I have is trusting myself with what I get. And I have my loved ones will literally set up situations where they will tell me a message that I can check with someone, because they tell me all the time that I need to trust myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know, I'm trying.
Like, I get it. All right.
Message received. I'm just struggling a little. It's, so it was mostly with family, and then towards the end of 2016, a good friend of mine passed away. And when he passed away, I consider that like my second awakening, because when I found out he was gone, my mind just it's like whatever allows you to be sensitive or tune into things, it's like it was cracked open a little more or something.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can think of to say it, because within a week of his passing, I was already getting messages from him in ways that I hadn't communicated with family before in the past, and he was the first non-family member. So that was a big deal for me, because I was like, okay, this is branching out a bit. And it became very clear to me very quickly that he was trying to teach me and kind of guide me with these new things. Because the first things that I got were just like images, like flashes of images and stuff. And then I started getting more of the communication type stuff, like in my head. And for anyone out there who kind of has that stuff going on too, and maybe has trouble sorting out their own inner voice from what they're getting, because every once in a while I'll hear it in the person's voice in my head, but usually not. But how I know it's not me is because it'll be something that comes out of nowhere, like it's something I'm not thinking about at all. So that helps. And then there's also like I'll either have that strong like knowing feeling about it, or one of my biggest tells is I'll get really emotional and start to cry, and that's when I know like this was a real connection and stuff, and it's different, I guess.
Is this the same person that we talked about earlier?
Oh, who was
doing a little
around with the EVP last week?
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha.
He also there's all sorts of ways that they can communicate, and it's just amazing. He was a very musical person, and so a lot of the times I would get messages in songs. There was one day I was just having a crap day, and I was upset about, I don't even remember. I know I was partly upset about him. I think there was something else going on too. And I was just like, I'm just going to take a shower, vibe out, listen to my music, relax, whatever. And I remember thinking, like, because that was when I was listening to the 90s alternative station on Pandora all the time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I want to hear Nirvana. Like, that's what I want right now. And the first song that was on wasn't them. And I just remember being bummed. But it was like towards the end of the song. And the next song was Nirvana, and it was Lithium. And so with his passing, I also started getting the stuff where I could see things in my mind's eye. So it's basically like if you're sitting there in your room and you close your eyes, you can visualize your room around you in your head, right?
Right.
So like it's like that, but then you can see like where the person is, like how they're positioned, maybe their facial expression and stuff. And so Lithium comes on, and for folks who don't know the first lyrics and stuff, it's just, I'm so happy because today I found my friends, they're in my head. And that was a message from him. And he thought it was hilarious. And I'll give it to him. It was hilarious. That's
Yeah.
so
Of all the Nirvana songs to play
that
at
one.
that moment was
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
And in my mind's eye, I could see him in the doorway, and he was leaned up against the doorway, and he had his like legs kind of crossed as he was standing there, and he had this shit-eating grin on his face. He was so proud of himself. But I'll give him that one. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's
So yeah. And I know some people, like when they lose loved ones, they'll be waiting for a message or a sign or something, and time will go by and they're like, why hasn't this happened? Or they're like, I'm ready, like why? And even though like earlier on I had this stuff going on with my family, I was always kind of like, I'm ready to do more, like I want to help people and stuff. And it just kind of like, hello, like I'm waiting, like, but a lot of people say that you might think you're ready, but you're really not, or there's some more things that you need to work on before you're going to be ready for that. And they say that when you're ready, people will start coming into your life that you can talk to and kind of learn from about this stuff. And it was a couple months after he had passed when I had met a Reiki practitioner and another psychic medium. They were at it wasn't an open house, but it was some event going on at a place downtown. And my mom and I decided to just stop there. Yeah. And I met them, and that I started going to her for Reiki. And Reiki opens you up to communication. And that's something that practitioners will tell people on their first visit is as kind of a warning, like if you're not ready for this kind of stuff, you probably shouldn't do Reiki because it will make you more open to things. And if you're not ready for those kinds of things, then you should
probably not do it.
Just be getting regular massages or something. Because pretty much every Reiki section I've had done, I'm communicating with loved ones and stuff. So yeah, you might think you're ready, and you're actually not. And don't beat yourself up about it, because things will happen the way that they're supposed to. Yeah. I know that sounds cliche as well, but it's just really, I guess, the easiest way I can put it.
Yeah, I used to think about that a lot. Why haven't I heard from this person or that person?
Right? Yeah, that happened to me too.
But I was, as I got older, I put it in my mind that, well, They knew we were okay. We were
Mhm.
grieving, we were sad, but they knew that we would be okay, and so they're doing their thing.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe partying, living it up, seeing other old family members, and just not so much forgetting us down here,
Right.
but just knowing that, one day we'll be up there with them. So wherever
Mhm.
wherever it is, whatever people's beliefs are.
Right.
So it helps me if I don't hear anything because I'm like, you know, I like to think that they're partying.
Oh, yeah. Well, I got a little story about that too. When my friend passed, he was a musician, and like I didn't know this about my grandpa until after my grandma passed. When we were going through things in her house, we found one of those rubber practice drumming pads,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and I was like, "What the heck," you know? And and that's when I found out they're like, "Yeah, your grandpa wanted to be a drummer," and he a lot of times he would walk around with drumsticks in his back pocket, and I was just like, "What?"
wow,
Like I didn't know this. And my friend was a drummer and played guitar. And from my understanding of what they had told me was that when he passed on to the other side, my grandpa was there to help him a bit with kind of like readjusting again. And my friend was teaching my grandpa the drums.
yeah, yeah,
And that was pretty rad. Um, and a lot of times, if I get visited by one of them, it's usually, well, not always, but a lot of at least half the time they're together. Um, which at first I was just like, this does not make any sense to me. But then I was just like, they both enjoyed a good PBR, like they loved their music,
yeah,
and I don't know. I was just like, I could totally see them hanging out,
yeah.
and uh another thing that is also amazing and a blessing is how they can look after us. I was driving to my pain specialist in Milwaukee one day, and maybe like 10 minutes into the drive, they popped into the car, and my grandpa was in the passenger seat, and my friend was in the back. Um, and they'll pop in just to hang out. It doesn't have to be like this life-changing message or whatever. Like there was one night when I was watching The Walking Dead and my friend popped in, and he was just sitting there watching it with me because we actually used to text each other during the new episodes and stuff.
Yeah.
So he just popped in one time just to kind of hang out and watch with me.
Yeah.
Um, but on this drive, uh, on the drive there, it was the first time that my grandpa showed himself to me when he was in like his late teens, early 20s,
Mm,
which was interesting to
yeah.
me. And I wasn't really sure why, but I didn't really think much about it either. Um, and then after my appointment, there was a lot of construction going on in the area. And the ramp that I was taking to get back onto the interstate was a construction ramp, just like this makeshift whatever for
Yeah.
in the meantime while they're working on things. And the ramp was short as hell. And it was like rush hour traffic. I was heading on, and it's a semi truck
Oh
that's
man.
there. And the other lane, like there were cars, like it couldn't move over.
Yeah.
And you have hardly any room to merge onto there before it's just dirt. And then there were like in construction zones, they'll have those concrete
Bears.
barrier type things, those long, and they're
Yeah.
when you see the sides of them, they're kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. um there was one of those like parallel with my car.
Oh no.
And um I have PTSD with certain car situations because that's what triggered the fibromyalgia, was a car accident and stuff. And so rush hour traffic or driving in places that I'm not familiar with when traffic is busy, or certain weather conditions, I freak out more. And so I was pretty much driven off the road because the semi couldn't go anywhere, you know?
Yeah.
I don't remember stopping the car. I don't remember stopping the car. And I don't know how much space there was between me and that concrete barrier. But if I had kept driving, I think that thing would have just gone.
Right through the middle of your car.
Because you're speeding up real like fast
To merge on.
to merge in with
Yeah.
the traffic, and they're usually going at least 65, like 70 and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember stopping. And when I kind of more came to and stuff, I was fine. I wasn't freaking out at all, which is not how I would normally be.
Yeah.
Normally, I would probably be crying and shaking and just need to sit there for a while and maybe wait the traffic out. I don't know what I would have regularly done. So I was clearly being influenced by my grandpa and my friend, and they popped back in the car. And when my grandpa showed up, then he appeared to me how I remembered him when I was a kid. So he clearly was showing himself to me in the way I remembered him to be more comforting and stuff.
Yeah.
Which was interesting because I was just like, he was just in his like 18, like late teens, early 20s, like when we were coming here. But after that happened, and I absolutely believe that they did something. Because I don't remember stopping.
Wow.
I just remember being like, fuck. That was pretty much it. Yeah, I was able to merge back into traffic and drive home. I didn't freak out. I didn't have any problems with my breathing. I wasn't shaking at all. Like, that was clearly them keeping me level-headed so I could drive home.
Yeah.
Going along the lines of they can give us warnings and stuff too. Let's see. There's been 5 times now where I've been warned. Like, a lot of times when I drive, if I'm on the interstate or if I'm taking a longer drive or whatever, I use my cruise control a lot. And there's been 5 times now where I haven't pinpointed, like, I haven't been able to tell that it's one of like my departed loved ones, which I say for my family and my friend.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a guide or whatever kind of beings are over there that send us messages or communicate with us. There's been 5 times when I've been warned to turn the cruise off and slow down and to pay more attention because there's going to be an animal in the road or crossing the road or something. And 4 of those times it was a deer, and 1 time it was a dog.
Oh no.
But I was warned all of those times. So that's pretty amazing too. But yeah, it's been absolutely amazing, just the different things that I've realized are possible in terms of communicating with souls, ever since that second awakening or whatever happened. Like I got a couple messages from a close friend of mine when she was pregnant. Her daughter, while in the womb, gave me messages.
What?
It was just twice, but I didn't know that was a thing. It was just like babies, like in the womb, communicating with you. But when I thought about it, I'm like, they're souls too. Duh.
Yeah. Could be past life coming in.
Like, so, and so with the baby thing, since I was like, okay, I didn't know that this was a thing. I was kind of like, I'm going to try to reach out to her. And I'd never done that before. So it was just little experiment time. And I was just like, and so I centered myself and reached out to her, thought about her, and told her, if you can get this from me, I'm doing a little test because I'm trying to learn some stuff. And I was just like, if you can move around a ton today, enough that it's noticeable to your mama that you are like super active today, that would be awesome. Because then I can check with my friend, like, how was baby today? Was, you know?
Yeah.
So I reached out, and then later that night I talked to my friend and I was just like, so I did a little experiment today. And she knows about all of my stuff, so she doesn't care. And I told her what it was, and I was like, so was she more active than usual today? And she's like, the baby has been insane all day long, moving all day. And she's like, usually the baby is only up when she's more active and at work,
Yeah.
then the baby is moving around more. But she's like, today the baby's been moving around like crazy. And I was just like, this is insane. Like, how is this? And it was funny. Her husband is a good friend of mine who I've known since we were like 4. We went to preschool together. And the baby shower was not long after this had happened. And when the girls were all in the baby shower part, where it was at, the other section is a bar. And so like he was over there with the guy friends, and then we all started hanging out. And when I ran into him, I gave him a hug, and he was just like, no more playing voodoo doll with my baby or something. And I was like, no, not. He's like, I'm just giving you shit. But yeah. And yeah, theories are fun. And it's fun to think about all of the possibilities and stuff. From my understanding, from various communications and stuff, is like, okay, so I guess if you take like the more like the Christian principle of like everyone can pray to God and God is everywhere at once and can help like tune into everyone at the same time kind of thing. Souls are massive, huge, and just like God and angels can be there for multiple people at once, a soul can be with multiple people at once. And even there's the theories that souls can even split and be in different bodies.
Yeah.
That's like getting into whole other
Yeah.
things and everything, but it's interesting to think about. And then it's like there's the consideration of when you head back to the other side, and there's things that you agree to and things that you want to learn in your upcoming life. So there's these things called soul contracts where you agree to experience whatever. But of course we forget that because the whole point is to grow and learn on our own. So if we knew that when we got here already, it's kind of cheating the whole test.
Yeah.
Because they say that like Earth is considered like a school for souls, and it's a very hard one. There's a lot of trauma and pain with Earth, and but unfortunately that's how we grow the most, is through pain. And so it's sort of like and this is, again, these are theories and stuff, but it's like if souls want to kind of advance their growth more quickly, then it's like they come here kind of thing, because because people go through so much stuff. So yeah, all that stuff is interesting to think about. Thinking about the elderly and passing on, because of the experiences that I've had, I was actually able to help. Because death hasn't been a weird thing to me. And I was able to help my ex-husband's grandma when she had been in a group home for a while, and I remembered on one of the visits to go see her, when kind of the whole family went to go see her and stuff, like, some people are good with those situations and other people are really uncomfortable with it. And, like, some people just like can't do hospitals. Like, if someone they care about is in the hospital, it's like they will tell you they love you and stuff, but it's like they can't do that kind of thing or whatever. And when we got in the room, I noticed how everyone was just staying closer to the door. And so I could tell, like, they're not as comfortable with this stuff and everything. And so since I felt weird about it at first, but I was just like, this is important. Like, she's towards the end now, and I can't care about how this might look or whatever. I actually asked his family, first I went and there was a chair right next to her bed, and so I sat in that chair, and I would help her get her juice when she wanted it, or water or whatever. And she would kind of tap my knee when she wanted something. And one of the times when she tapped my knee, I was like, oh, do you want more of your juice and stuff? And she was just like, no. And then she grabbed my hand and she just wanted to hold my hand. Yeah. Because death does scare a lot of people. When people are dying, it's like people are afraid to be by them or talk to them, or they act like it's not happening or something.
Yeah.
So I actually asked his family if they would be okay to leave the room for a little bit and I could talk to her. And so I asked her how she was feeling about everything and if she was scared and stuff. And she said she wasn't scared. And I shared with her some of the stories of things that I had experienced with loved ones growing up, and just knowing that there's more, and not knowing exactly what that is, but that there is more. And she was really grateful for that. And I was just glad that I could do that for her, because it's like people almost kind of get treated like they're freaks when they're dying. And it's like, it's just the next part,
Yeah.
And there's still that person that you love. And so I was glad that I could do that for her.
Yeah. And that's kind of an amazing thing, because, I know some people who had that chance to do that and regret it because they looked at it as, I don't know, whatever was going through their mind of, it's death. I don't want to be near death kind of thing. It's like, that's still your loved one. You know what I mean?
Right.
Enjoy that time, because once it's gone, and you can't, you gotta live your life with regrets because you didn't say anything, you weren't there, you weren't holding their hand.
Right.
And the last couple of years in this shit show of a pandemic, there's people that didn't get that opportunity.
Right. Like, they're not even allowed in the hospital.
Yeah. When my brother passed, my mom and I were there, and we were 12 feet away from his bed, behind a glass window and a glass door that they were going into his room. And we couldn't go in there. We couldn't be next to him. And it sucks.
It rips your heart out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I always tell people, that if you have that opportunity, just be there. Don't look at it as, you're being next to death.
Right.
Because yeah, it's the end for somebody, but it's also their beginning. So
Right. Like, because like that's like I know a lot of people like in the communities, you never say that you know this or that or whatever, and I agree with that. But for me, the one thing that I will say that I know is that there's more. It's just I don't know what it is.
yeah, I agree with that.
But it's like there's no way I could be getting the things that I get if there wasn't,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, and another way to think about it is think if you were either passing from an illness or you were older and it was your time and stuff, and maybe you're scared, or maybe you've already seen loved ones that have visited you, because that's a common thing when you're close.
Yeah.
Passing. Like, how would you want to be treated by your loved ones? Like, you're still that person. You might look different and whatever, but yeah.
Yeah.
If you're able to, and they're fine with talking about it or whatever, just talk about it.
Yeah.
We're connected on different levels with different people in our life. Like one of my friends, I know he's one of my soulmates too, in a friendship way, and we've never met in person. I'm in Wisconsin, he's in California, but we absolutely believe that we're soul family. And so the times will come up. He has more illnesses and stuff than I do, and allergies to a lot of stuff, and just a lot of complicated things going on. And so occasionally he'll message me and be like, I'm having this reaction, and I don't know if it's the Lyme's disease or if I'm now allergic to something else when it comes to food or whatever, or if this could be whatever else. So it's like he's trying to figure it out, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we do this for each other too. We'll meditate on it, and I don't know if there's a time when we haven't been able to figure it out for the other person. Like, we're able to just like get stuff for each other and clear things up, and it's crazy, but it's so awesome too. I've had interesting experiences doing Reiki for my dog. So in terms of animal communication, I've never done the Reiki like hands-on with her, but that's not necessary. And as a traumatized dog, that can be hard for her and stuff too anyway. So she doesn't have to be in the room with me. That's fine. But a lot of times while I'm doing that, and you go to this place in your mind that's like whatever paradise or whatever is to you, you create this place that you just go to. And that's the place that I go to whenever I'm doing Reiki and stuff. And I'll alter some things of the surroundings to, if I think that will be better for the person or the animal that I'm working with and everything. And one of the times, I had gone on a first date with this. I was doing online dating at the time, and I'd been on one date with this dude, and he was telling me how one of his dogs had really hurt its paw. It was the winter time, and I guess there was a shovel and some snow, and he jumped in the snow, and the shovel kind of like cut his paw or something.
Yeah.
And And I was like, well, I was going to do Reiki for my dog tonight. I can include yours too, if that's okay. Like, you always need to get permission.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's fine. And that was the first time I'd ever included another animal in it when I was working on Andy and stuff. But it was cool because I know this is a small thing and some people would be like, oh, that could whatever. But it's just more to show that connections of things. Like, since the place that I go to is kind of like this rad little cabin type thing on the beach. And so I think it was just because it was on the beach, like my mind went to frisbees. I don't know why. People at the beach throw frisbees. I don't know. But
Sometimes, yeah.
so that's what because Andy she stays by me when we're doing that. But this other dog wanted to play and stuff. And so frisbee was what came and popped in my head. But that dog was just like not impressed with the frisbee at all. So the next thing to pop in my head was these like YouTube videos I had seen of these things that people can make or order where the dog can put the ball in there and it'll throw it and they can chase it down and bring it back and they can load it themselves. So it's like they do it themselves.
Yeah.
So I put that like on the beach there and I'm like, okay, we'll try this. The dog friggin' loved it. And I was just like, okay, just going on with my Reiki kind of stuff. But when I was done, I was just like, well, that's interesting. And so I reached out to him. They're human, this guy that I had the one date with. And I was just like, does your dog happen to not like playing with frisbees and loves chasing balls? Like, if there's fetch, he just fetches with balls. And he's like, yeah, he's like, the frisbee dog is my other dog. And I was just kind of like that's fascinating, because in the thing, your dog definitely was not wanting to play with the frisbee, but once I got a ball machine type thing, he was just having the time of his life. Just like and a lot of times when I'll finish Reiki, the way that Andy was laying in, like the position she was laying in while I was in it and stuff, I'll walk around the house and when I see her, that's how she's laying down in the house.
That's cute.
Both my folks, they're more logic brain, like they both worked in the medical field and stuff, and my dad's dad came to me one time during a Reiki session, and one of the things he said to tell my dad was that he works too hard, and that he's proud of him. Those were the two things, I think. And excuse me. And my parents are aware of this stuff. They just don't really know what to think about it and everything.
Yeah.
And I approached my dad one night and I told him, I'm like, he said to tell you that you work too much, but he's proud of you. And I told my dad, I'm like, I'm getting the feeling by the way the feeling of how he kind of related to me. I'm like, did he ever tell you he was proud of you? And he was just like, no, he never said anything like that kind of thing, like when he was here. And that's another amazing thing, like souls on the other side, they get a clearer picture of stuff and they realize things about their lives and how they treated people and stuff too. And when I told my dad that, the part about working hard, and this floored me. He was like, years ago, he's like, I had a patient and we were just in the exam room and he's sitting on there and I was looking at some paperwork and stuff. And his name was Charles, and that's what my grandpa's name was. And he was either the age that my grandpa was when he passed or the age that he would have been if he was still alive. It was one of those two. But so my dad's just looking at paperwork, and out of nowhere, this man named Charles says to him, "Your dad thinks you work too hard. You work too much."
Wow. So it's the same
And
message.
yes. And those are years apart, and my dad never told me that story until I told him what my grandpa said to tell him.
Wow.
And when he told me that, I was so happy. I was just like, that is the coolest thing ever. Like,
Wow.
because when does like just this random stranger person have the same name and then be like, your dad thinks you work too hard?
Yeah. Just out and says that
Yeah.
word for word, and then you say it years later, same
Mm-hmm.
thing. Yeah, definitely confirmation.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's all sorts of ways that you can be communicated with. And I just from the few things that I've learned are possible and everything, it's like I know that there are a lot of people that will be like, this isn't reality. But for me, it's like the more that I'm learning about what's possible, at least in my reality, is way more amazing than I could have even imagined, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is really exciting, I think.
Yeah.
Because we really don't know shit.
That is very true.
And especially just when it comes to the brain. So, like, consciousness, like, I mean, I know there's improvements and stuff, but yeah, I think in at least my experience, things are way more amazing than I would have ever thought.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
think that's a happy note to end on.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your journey here in life,
Mm-hmm.
with the paranormal, and spiritual side, and
Yeah, I hope it can help some people if
yeah,
someone watches and like they are wondering what the heck is going on with them and what they're experiencing and stuff. That's always like kind of the goal, is to
yeah,
help other people figure stuff out too.
and that they can relate. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they don't have somebody around them that they can talk to about what they're going through.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's good that they can relate in a sense to your stories and saying, that's something I'm going through too. So,
Mm-hmm.
yep,
Yeah. It's good for folks to know that they're not alone
yep,
and that
definitely.
there's not anything wrong with them.
Exactly. Exactly.
You
Um,
just pick up on some more stuff and it's okay.
exactly. So thank you all for watching
Yes, thank
um,
you.
this first of 3-part episodes, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yep. Bye.